The blade stops 3 inches from my throat. I can smell the copper scent of dried blood on the obsidian edge, see my reflection distorted in the polished stone. The warrior holding it has eyes like black coal, and his chest heaves with the exertion of our fight. Behind him, temple fires cast dancing shadows across walls that shimmer with impossible wealth. Gold. Everywhere. Gold. More gold than I've ever seen in any century. Any civilization coating every surface until the very air seems to glow amber. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up 12 hours, to when I first materialized in the Amazon rainforest and realized I'd found something the world had been searching for since the conquistadors first heard the whispers. Something that wasn't supposed to exist. The chrono device on my left wrist had been counting down for the last 30 seconds of transit. 1450, 1350, 1250. The temporal vortex around me compressed into a pinpoint of white light, then exploded outward in a rush of humidity and heat that hit me like a physical wall. My boots sank into earth that was more mud than soil, and the canopy above blocked out the sun so completely that the forest floor existed in a perpetual twilight. I steadied myself against a massive tree trunk, its bark rough and wet under my palm. The chrono fiber in my coat adjusted to the temperature automatically, but nothing could prepare you for the sheer density of an Amazon jungle before the modern world touched it. Every breath was thick with moisture, with the scent of decomposition and violent growth happening simultaneously. Somewhere above, a howler monkey screamed, and the sound echoed through the green cathedral like a warning. The mission parameters had been vague. Investigation only. Reports of an anomalous civilization existing in this region, this time period. Nothing concrete. Nothing that explained why the Chrononauts organization was interested. But I'd learned long ago that when they sent you somewhere without details, it meant they didn't want to bias your observations, or they didn't know what you'd find. I checked my coordinates. 3.2 kilometers north-northeast. I started walking. The jungle fought me every step. Vines like pythons dropped from branches overhead. Thorns caught at my coat. The ground alternated between sucking mud and treacherous tangles of roots that seemed designed to break ankles. I'd been walking for maybe 40 minutes when I first heard it. A sound that didn't belong. Metal striking metal. Rhythmic. Deliberate. I moved toward it, quieter now, my hand instinctively moving to the chrono device. Not a weapon, but it had defensive capabilities if needed. The sound grew louder, and then I saw the light. It shouldn't have been possible. The canopy was too thick. But ahead, breaking through the green darkness like a vision, golden light spilled between the trees. Not firelight, not sunlight. The reflected radiance of precious metal on a scale that defied comprehension. I pushed through a final curtain of hanging moss and stopped dead. The city rose before me like something out of fever dream or ancient legend. Ophir. It had to be. Massive stone pyramids climbed toward the canopy, their sides completely covered in beaten gold that caught every scattered ray of sunlight and amplified it 1,000-fold. Terraced gardens cascaded down the pyramid sides, bursting with flowers that added splashes of crimson and purple against the gold. Buildings with walls of polished stone and roofs of golden tiles spread out in a grid pattern that spoke of sophisticated urban planning. And at the center, dominating everything, a palace complex that gleamed so brightly it hurt to look at directly. I'd studied every legend, every account of lost cities of gold. This was bigger than El Dorado, more magnificent than any conquistador's fantasy. And it was real. Guards stood at intervals along the outer wall wearing breastplates of hammered gold and carrying weapons tipped with obsidian. Their skin was bronze, their hair black and decorated with golden ornaments shaped like jaguars and serpents. They didn't look like they'd welcome unexpected visitors. I circled the perimeter, looking for a way in that didn't involve explaining my anachronistic appearance to suspicious warriors. The city was built against a cliff face on one side, and I made my way toward it, using the jungle as cover. That's when I heard the drums. Deep, resonant, the kind of drums that you feel in your chest cavity before your ears register the sound. They were coming from the palace complex, and they carried a weight that made my skin prickle with instinctive unease. Something about the rhythm, something primal and terrible, I found what I was looking for. A drainage channel cut into the cliff face, wide enough for a man to squeeze through. It smelled like old water and stone, but it led under the city wall. I'd done worse. I dropped into the channel and started crawling. The passage was longer than I'd anticipated, and halfway through I had to suppress a surge of claustrophobia as the walls pressed in from both sides. But then I saw light ahead, and moments later, I was pulling myself up into a narrow alley between two buildings. I stayed low, letting my eyes adjust. The drums were louder here, and now I could hear voices. Chanting. Thousands of voices raised in unison, speaking a language that my neural implant struggled to translate. The patterns were wrong. This wasn't any known indigenous dialect. The Chrononaut's linguistic database was coming up empty. I moved through the alley toward the sound, keeping to the shadows. The buildings around me were remarkable up close. The gold wasn't just decorative, it was structural. They'd somehow learned to work gold on a massive scale, creating alloys that maintained the metal's beauty while giving it strength. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Every surface was covered in intricate designs, jaguars and serpents, and geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow in the golden light. The alley opened onto a massive plaza, and I pressed myself against the wall, taking in the scene. The entire city must have been gathered. Thousands of people all facing the palace steps. They wore simple clothing, mostly undyed cotton, but every person had some piece of golden jewelry. Armbands, necklaces, ear ornaments. They reflected the light like a sea of tiny flames. On the palace steps stood a figure that could only be the king. He wore a crown of golden feathers, each plume perfectly crafted from the precious metal. His robe was cloth of gold, and even from this distance I could see jewels glinting in the fabric. He stood with arms raised, and when he spoke, the crowd fell silent. The gods demand tribute. His voice carried across the plaza, amplified by acoustics that the ancient builders had clearly understood. The gods demand purity. The gods demand sacrifice. My stomach tightened. I knew where this was going. Guards appeared at the top of the steps, dragging a young woman between them. She was struggling, but they held her firmly. She wore a white dress and her hair was long and black, cascading down her back. Even from this distance I could see the terror on her face. "Behold," the king's voice rose higher, "the virgin Jade, whose blood will purchase prosperity for Ophir, whose life will ensure the favor of the gods." The crowd roared approval. The drums intensified, and the guards began dragging the woman toward an altar at the top of the steps. A massive stone slab stained dark with what could only be old blood. I didn't think. Didn't calculate the odds or consider the temporal ramifications. I just moved. The plaza was too exposed, too crowded, but there was a series of terraced gardens running up the side of the palace, and I made for those, keeping low and fast. The crowd was focused on the spectacle. No one looked behind them. I scaled the first terrace, my hands finding purchase on golden decorations shaped like jaguar heads. The second terrace was harder, the walls smooth and high. I had to use the chrono device to generate a magnetic pulse, just enough to let me cling to the metal-infused stone. The third terrace brought me level with the altar. The woman, Jade, was being strapped down. She was fighting every second, and I could hear her voice now, clear and defiant even through her fear. "You're no king. You're a usurper and a murderer. My brother will return and you'll pay for every innocent life you've taken." The king, Tarek, struck her across the face. The sound cracked across the plaza. "Your brother rots in the dungeons, girl. He'll never see daylight again. And after your blood feeds the gods, Ophir will forget House Azuriel ever existed." A priest appeared, carrying a blade of obsidian longer than my forearm. The edge caught the light, black and gleaming and sharp enough to split atoms. I pulled myself over the terrace wall and ran. I had maybe 10 seconds before someone noticed me. I used them all. I crossed the distance between the garden and the altar at a dead sprint, my coat billowing behind me. The priest saw me first, his eyes going wide. He started to turn, to raise the blade, but I was already there. I hit him with my shoulder, a tackle that sent both of us sprawling across the golden tiles. The obsidian blade clattered away, skittering toward the edge of the platform. Guards shouted. The crowd's roar turned to confusion. I rolled to my feet, putting myself between Jade and everyone else. Tarek stared at me with eyes full of rage and something else. Fear. He'd seen my clothes, my equipment. He didn't know what I was, but he knew I wasn't from his world. Who dares interrupt the sacred rites? His voice tried for authority, but there was a tremor underneath. I activated my neural translator, letting it analyze the language patterns and adjust my speech. When I spoke, it was in their tongue, and I could see the shock register on every face. Someone who won't let you murder an innocent woman to prop up your stolen throne. The words hung in the air for a frozen moment. Then chaos erupted. Guards rushed me from both sides. I grabbed Jade's arm, pulling her off the altar. She stumbled but found her feet quickly. "Who are you?" Her voice was hoarse but steady. "A friend. Run." We ran. I didn't know where, just away from the palace, toward the terraced gardens I'd used to climb up. Behind us, Tarek was screaming orders. Arrows hissed past, obsidian points striking golden tiles and sending up sparks. We made it to the garden wall, and I pulled Jade over, both of us dropping to the terrace below. She landed in a crouch, moving with the grace of someone trained to fight. Not just a helpless victim, then. "The dungeons," she gasped as we ran. "We have to reach the dungeons. My brother, Uriel. He's the rightful king. If we can free him." An arrow embedded itself in the wall next to my head. Too close. I grabbed Jade and pulled her into a doorway. We were in some kind of storage building, filled with amphorae and sacks of grain. Not much cover, but better than being out in the open. "Where are the dungeons?" I demanded. She pointed north toward the cliff face. "Built into the rock. But they're guarded, heavily guarded. Tarek's paranoid about Uriel escaping. How long has your brother been imprisoned?" 20 years. Her eyes met mine and I saw the pain there. Since we were children. Tarek murdered our parents and seized the throne. I was spared because I was just a girl. Uriel they kept alive as leverage. Until today, when Tarek decided he didn't need leverage anymore. 20 years. I looked at her face, really looked. She was maybe 25, which meant she'd been 5 when her world collapsed. And she'd survived, waiting, planning. "Why today?" I asked. "Why sacrifice you now?" Her laugh was bitter. "The crops have been failing. The gold mines are running dry. Ophir's wealth is fading, and the people are getting restless. Tarek needs to blame something, someone. He told them the gods were angry because his Uriel blood still lived. That only my sacrifice would restore prosperity. Classic tyrant playbook. When in doubt, find a scapegoat and cover it in religious justification." Footsteps thundered outside. Shouts. They were searching building by building. "We need to move," I said. "Can you fight?" She grabbed a clay pot from a nearby shelf and smashed it, selecting a long shard that made a wicked, improvised blade. "I've been waiting 20 years for a chance to fight. Try and stop me." I liked her already. We slipped out the back of the storage building and into another alley. The city was in chaos. Guards running everywhere. Citizens confused and frightened. We used the confusion, moving quickly but not running, trying to blend in. Jade pulled a cloak from a washing line and threw it over her white dress, hiding the sacrificial garb. The cliff face loomed ahead, and cut into its base was a massive door of beaten bronze. Guards flanked it, 6 of them, all armed with obsidian-tipped spears and looking very alert. "That's it," Jade whispered. "The only entrance to the dungeon complex." I studied the guards, the door, the layout. Direct assault was suicide. We needed a distraction, or we needed to be smart. "Tarek will be searching the whole city for us," I said. "He'll call in guards from every post. We wait for that. And if he doesn't, then we make him." I led Jade back through the alleys, working our way toward the western edge of the city. There was a grain warehouse here, the largest I'd seen, probably holding the city's food stores. The walls were wood beneath the golden decorations, and where there was grain, there were oil lamps. "You're not," Jade said, reading my intention. "You have a better idea?" She thought for a moment, then shook her head. "The people will blame me. They'll say I'm cursed, that I'm destroying Ophir. Or they'll realize Tarek's lies aren't worth following anymore. When you have to choose between eating and obeying, most people choose eating. I didn't wait for her to respond. I grabbed 2 oil lamps from the warehouse entrance and smashed them against the wooden support beams. The oil spread, and I used my chrono device to generate a spark. The flame caught instantly, spreading faster than I'd anticipated. Within seconds, smoke was pouring from the warehouse doors. We ran. Behind us, shouts of alarm. The fire bell began ringing, a huge bronze thing that could probably be heard across the entire city. And like I'd hoped, I heard guards running past our hiding spot, all heading toward the fire. We gave them a 2-minute head start, then made our move toward the dungeon entrance. 2 guards remained. Better than 6, but still not great odds. I was trying to figure out an approach when Jade simply walked out of the alley toward them, her makeshift blade hidden in the folds of her cloak. "Help me!" she called out in a voice pitched to sound panicked. "The fire! It's spreading toward the temple quarter. They need everyone." The guards hesitated, looking at each other. Jade got closer, stumbling as if exhausted. One of the guards stepped forward to catch her. She drove the clay shard into his throat. The move was so fast, so practiced, I barely saw it happen. The guard went down, blood spraying across the golden tiles. The second guard had a moment to look shocked before I hit him from behind, using a nerve strike that dropped him unconscious. Jade was already at the bronze door, her hands running over the surface, looking for the mechanism. "Here, help me with this." Together we pushed on a section of the bronze that was slightly different from the rest, oxidized green rather than polished gold. The door groaned and began to swing inward, revealing darkness and the smell of damp stone and human suffering. We stepped inside and I let my eyes adjust. The passage sloped downward, carved from the living rock of the cliff. Torches lined the walls at intervals, casting more shadow than light. And from somewhere deep below came the sound of water dripping and the occasional moan of prisoners. "Uriel will be in the lowest level," Jade said, her voice tight with emotion. "Tarek always said that's where traitors belong." In the deepest darkness, we descended. The dungeon was a maze of passages and cells carved into the rock. Most stood empty, their doors hanging open on rusted hinges. A few held prisoners, skeletal figures that shrank back from our torchlight. Jade stopped at each occupied cell, asking for Uriel, getting only silence or mad laughter in response. The passage ended at a final door, this one newer than the others, reinforced with bands of bronze. No window, no way to see inside, but there was a sound from beyond it. Someone breathing, someone waiting. "Uriel?" Jade's voice cracked. "Brother, can you hear me?" Silence, then faint but clear. "Jade? Is that truly you? Or has my madness finally completed its work?" She sobbed once, a sound that contained 20 years of grief and hope. "It's me. I'm getting you out." The door had no visible lock, just a complex mechanism of gears and pins. I studied it, recognizing the design. Impressive. They'd created something similar to a modern combination lock, which meant we needed the combination, or we needed to improvise. I placed my chrono device against the lock mechanism and activated its electromagnetic pulse function. The device wasn't designed for this, and I could feel it overheating in my hand, but the pulse disrupted the pins enough that I heard something click inside the mechanism. I pulled the door. It didn't move. Another pulse. Another click. The device was getting dangerously hot now, and I could smell ozone. Third pulse. The lock gave way with a grinding sound and the door swung open. The man inside was almost unrecognizable as human, gaunt to the point of skeletal, with a beard that reached his chest and hair that hung in matted tangles. His skin was pale as a corpse from 2 decades without sunlight, but his eyes were sharp, intelligent, and as he looked at Jade, they filled with tears. "You're alive," he whispered. "They told me you were dead. Years ago. They said you died of fever." Jade was across the cell in 3 steps, throwing her arms around him. He was so thin she could probably encircle his entire torso with her arms. They held each other, both crying now, and I looked away, giving them a moment of privacy, but only a moment. We didn't have time for more. "We need to move," I said. "Tarek will realize where we've gone. If we're still in this maze when his guards arrive." We're finished. Uriel looked at me for the first time, his eyes narrowing. You're not from Ophir. Your clothing, your speech. Who are you? Someone trying to help your sister. That's all you need to know right now. He held my gaze for a long moment, then nodded. Then let's not waste the help. He tried to stand and nearly collapsed. 20 years in a cell had atrophied his muscles to almost nothing. Jade caught him, supporting his weight. Can you walk? She asked. I can do whatever I have to do. His voice was stronger than his body. Lead the way. We made our way back through the dungeon passages, Uriel moving slowly but with increasing steadiness as blood flow returned to long unused muscles. We were halfway back to the entrance when we heard voices echoing down from above. Guards, many of them. There. Uriel pointed to a side passage I'd missed on the way down. That leads to the old cistern system. It's a maze, but it comes out in the lower city. We can lose them there. We plunged into the side passage. The ceiling got lower, forcing us to crouch, then crawl. Water sloshed around our hands and knees, cold and stinking of minerals. Behind us, the sound of pursuit. Ahead, only darkness and the drip, drip, drip of water in stone chambers. The passage opened into a larger space, a cistern carved from the rock and still holding a few feet of water that looked black in the torchlight. There were multiple exits, tunnels leading off in different directions. Which way? I asked. Uriel closed his eyes, thinking. I used to play in these tunnels as a child before. He stopped, opened his eyes. That one. The one on the left with the carving of a jaguar above it. We took his direction. The tunnel wound upward, and I could hear the sound of the city above us now. Voices, footsteps, the continued chaos of the fire I'd started. Good. The longer Tarek's attention was divided, the better our chances. The tunnel ended at a grate set into the floor of a building above. Through the gaps, I could see golden tiles and the legs of people running past. We waited for a moment when no one was visible. Then I pushed the grate up and we climbed out. We were in some kind of market square. Stalls stood empty, their goods scattered or trampled. The fire had spread and smoke was visible against the sky, tinged red by flames. The air tasted like burning grain and fear. The people need to see you, Jade said to Uriel. They need to know you're alive, that there's an alternative to Tarek's madness. Uriel looked down at himself. Filthy, skeletal, dressed in rags. I look like a ghost. They'll run screaming. You look like a man who survived 20 years of Tarek's hospitality. They'll understand. A group of citizens rounded the corner carrying buckets of water toward the fire. They saw us and stopped, staring. One of them, an old woman, dropped her bucket. It clattered against the tiles. Uriel? Her voice was barely a whisper. Prince Uriel? He straightened as much as his weakened body would allow. When he spoke, his voice carried surprising strength. I am Uriel Azurael, rightful heir to the throne of Ophir, and I have returned to claim what was stolen from my family. The old woman fell to her knees. Others followed. Within seconds, the entire group was kneeling, and more people were appearing, drawn by the commotion. Word spread like the fire I'd set. Uriel is alive. The true heir has returned. A guard patrol appeared at the far end of the square. They saw Uriel, saw the kneeling crowd, and hesitated. That hesitation was fatal to their cause. The crowd surged forward, surrounding the guards, disarming them. It wasn't violent, just overwhelming. The guards' weapons were taken and they were pushed to their knees. Take us to the palace, Uriel said to the crowd. It's time to end Tarek's reign. The crowd roared approval, and suddenly we weren't fugitives anymore. We were the center of a revolution. We moved through the city like a wave, gathering people as we went. Workers from the mines, farmers from the terraced fields, merchants who'd seen their profits squeezed by Tarek's excessive taxation. Every person who'd suffered under his rule joined the march. By the time we reached the palace plaza, we were thousands strong. Tarek stood on the palace steps, surrounded by his remaining guards. They looked nervous, outnumbered at least 20-1. Tarek himself looked furious and terrified in equal measure. You dare? He screamed at the crowd. You dare defy your king? You're no king, Jade shouted back. Her voice cut through the noise. You're a usurper and a murderer, and your reign ends today. Uriel stepped forward and the crowd parted for him. He climbed the palace steps slowly, each step obviously costing him, but he never faltered. He reached the top and stood before Tarek, and despite being skeletal and weak, he somehow looked like the more powerful man. 20 years, Uriel said quietly. 20 years you kept me in darkness. 20 years you ruled with fear and blood. 20 years you corrupted everything our parents built. He raised his voice so the entire plaza could hear. But no more. Your time is finished. Tarek's hand went to his weapon, a ceremonial sword of gold and obsidian. He drew it, raising it to strike, and that's when his own guards turned on him. They grabbed his arms, forcing him to his knees. The sword clattered to the tiles, and the crowd roared, a sound like thunder that seemed to shake the very pyramids. "Mercy," Tarek begged. "Please, I'll leave. I'll go into exile. Just spare my life." Uriel looked down at him for a long moment. Then he said, "You'll be judged. By the laws you claim to uphold, by the people you claim to serve, and whatever they decide, that will be your fate." It was a better answer than Tarek deserved. But it was the answer of a true king. The celebration lasted into the night. Uriel was crowned in a ceremony that was impromptu, but heartfelt. He promised justice, prosperity, reform. He opened the royal stores of food to feed the hungry. He declared that the days of human sacrifice were ended forever, and the people loved him for it. I watched from the shadows of the palace gardens, Jade beside me. We'd slipped away from the celebration, needing a moment of quiet after the chaos. "You saved my life," she said. "Saved my brother. Saved Ophir, probably. And I don't even know your name. Nicola. Nicola Brown." She repeated it softly. "Nicola Brown. A strange name. Where are you from? Somewhere very far away?" She turned to look at me, and in the golden light of the celebration fires, she was breathtaking. "You'll leave, won't you? Now that the adventure's done?" "I have to." "Stay." She moved closer. "Uriel would make you a lord. Give you lands, wealth. You could have anything you wanted in Ophir. I could smell jasmine from the gardens, gold polish, and underneath it, her scent. Human and warm and alive. It would be so easy to stay. To lose myself in this golden city and this brave woman and forget about temporal physics and the organization waiting in the future. But I'd made that mistake before. Or almost had. Too many times. "I can't," I said. "My life isn't here. Isn't anywhere, really. I'm a traveler, it's what I do. A traveler with a kind heart and quick hands." She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "Will I see you again?" "I don't know. Time is complicated." She laughed at that. "Everything's complicated doesn't mean it's not worth trying." She kissed me then. Not desperate or frantic, but slow and deep and full of things neither of us would say aloud. I kissed her back, my hands in her hair, and for that moment I let myself forget about everything except her warmth and her strength and the way she fit against me like we were carved from the same stone. When we finally pulled apart, she was crying. Just a little. "Go," she said, "before I do something foolish like beg you to stay again." I touched her face once more, memorizing it. Then I turned and walked into the shadows. I made my way through the celebrating city and back to the jungle where I'd first materialized. The chrono device hummed to life at my touch, preparing for transit. I set the coordinates for home, for headquarters, for the debriefing that would want to know every detail of what I'd seen. But before I activated the final sequence, I looked back at Ophir one last time, the golden city glowing in the night. I thought about Uriel, about the reforms he would make, about the prosperity he would bring, about how Ophir would become the richest city on Earth for decades, and about how eventually it would disappear, become lost, become legend. The temporal mechanics of that would be someone else's problem to figure out. Right now, I just wanted to remember it as it was in this moment, perfect and golden and full of hope. I activated the chrono device. The vortex opened around me, and the jungle dissolved into swirling light. As I fell through time, I carried the memory of Jade's kiss, of Uriel's courage, of a city too magnificent to be real, but real nonetheless. The transit completed, and I materialized in the stark white of the Chrononaut's arrival chamber. Technicians rushed forward with their scanners and debriefing protocols. I barely heard them. My mind was still in the Amazon, still tasting jasmine and gold dust. "Brown?" The mission coordinator looked concerned. "You okay? Did something happen?" I looked at him and smiled. Something always happens, that's the point, isn't it? I filed my report, confirmed the existence of Ophir, documented its location, its culture, its wealth, noted that it appeared to be thriving under new leadership, made no mention of the revolution I'd helped spark or the woman I'd kissed in a golden garden. Some things weren't for the official record. That night in my quarters, I looked up everything we had on Ophir in the historical database, the legends, the searches, the theories, and I found something interesting. According to every account, Ophir had disappeared suddenly around 1400 AD, just vanished into the jungle, leaving no trace except stories. 50 years from when I'd visited, 50 years of prosperity under Uriel's rule, and then nothing. What happened? Natural disaster, invasion, disease, something else entirely. The Chrononauts organization would probably send someone to investigate. Maybe it would even be me. But for now, it remained a mystery. Like so much about time and the people who lived through it. I thought about Jade one more time before sleep claimed me. Wondered if she'd found happiness. If she'd married some lord of Ophir and had children who would inherit her courage. If she ever thought about the strange man who'd appeared from nowhere and changed everything. Then again, maybe I'd changed nothing. Maybe Tarek would have fallen anyway. Maybe Uriel would have escaped on his own. Maybe I'd just been a footnote in a story that would have unfolded without me. That was the thing about time travel, that the organization never put in the recruitment materials. You never really knew what impact you'd had. You just did your best and hoped it mattered. I closed my eyes and let the darkness take me. The next morning, there was already a new mission waiting. Another time, another place, another chance to dive into the river of history and see where the current took me. I accepted the mission without hesitation, because that's what I do. That's who I am. I am Nicola Brown, a traveler through time and history. If you enjoyed this adventure of mine, subscribe to the channel and share it.